Hi guys, so this video it's going to be kind of like a teaser for how my online School of Mysticism classes are going to go. But I just couldn't help myself. I really wanted to share this one. It's basically what I always do, if you've seen my other work, is merging the information coming from Ireland with the information coming from the Neijing too, the inner weaving, the Daoist painting of the human body, the East and the West blended together inside the human body, and how all of these three tools can be overlaid so we can better understand the practice of the sacred secretion, the ancient origins of it, and the homage that Taoism has perhaps made to Ireland with being wisdom keepers of this information. And I want to talk today about a subject that, it's in the Bible. They speak about the land of milk and honey. And I wrote about this in my second book, Raising Christos, because I was a bit suspicious of the information that still is being kind of parroted around the sacred secretion informational merry-go-round, which I think it came from George Carey's book, God Man. And, people are talking about the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, and one secretes a milky-like substance and one secretes a honey-like substance. And to be honest, with, what I've studied with anatomy and physiology and all of my my studies of traditional Chinese medicine and learning all this stuff for the degree, I was thinking critically on this, and I'm thinking to myself, well, hang on a minute, we've got to back up the truck, because how do they know that these glands in the brain secrete these different colored substances? Like, where did this idea come from in the first place? So, we have to start thinking critically with this information. Firstly, we have to think, what is a gland? What is an endocrine gland? What is it secreting? Well, endocrine glands secrete hormones. What is a hormone? A hormone is a chemical messenger that travels like lightning fast through the bloodstream. Okay, so then it got me thinking, well, can we see hormones? Google, can we see hormones? No. Well, if we can't see hormones, then how do we know what color they are? We don't. We can't. It's impossible. It's code. It's always code with the sacred secretion stuff, which is like what I really find fun about it and fascinating about it. And when we use this map and the legends contained within the mythologies of Ireland, and then all of the archetypes that are contained within the Neijing too, as the zodiac wheel as well, we blend it all together within the body as the anatomy and physiology. We're going to find the answers. So that's what this video is about. It's about inspecting what is the true land of milk and honey. With all of this teaching, it's always coming back to the inner body, the inner alchemical experience. All of the biblical teachings, it's allegorical, therefore it's happening inside the body. So the land of milk and honey, it has to be within the body. But it's not about these two glands in the brain. I really, really don't think so. Because we also have all the other endocrine organs, glands too, right, on the chakra points. So why is everyone always obsessed, in my opinion? Everyone's obsessed with the brain, obsessed with the pineal gland, obsessed with raising the kundalini, opening the pineal gland, jumping out of the body. No, it's about coming into the body and integrating your spirit inside your body. Inside what is this body is the Isa Christ, if we translate, the meaning of Isa through the Irish words that McDarry is telling us, and then we cross-reference that with the Daoist three treasures, or the three vital substances, and then we know that it's talking about what runs the human body, right? So that's what we're going to inspect. I will zoom us into these different maps a little bit closer because we're a bit far away at the moment. So stay tuned and we'll get into it. Okay, awesome. We have zoomed in, and now what are we looking at? we're looking at the body of Ireland. And the body of Ireland, they say, is like a human body facing west, or it's in the shape of a bear or a fetus. And we can see here's the head, here's the biggest lake in Ireland called Loch Ness, which would be in the location of the ventricular system of the brain and the pineal gland. This is Loch Earn, lower and upper. This is Loch Ree, this is Loch Derg, lower. There's another Loch Derg up here. And these are really the main kind of largest lakes of Ireland, just for the context. This is the hands. This is the middle torso, the lower torso. This is the feet, and this is the tailbone, and this is the spine. And we call this the upper cauldron, the middle cauldron, and the lower cauldron. Upper, middle, and lower. And we also call them energy centers in Qigong. So these are the 3 energy centers. And what we're going to be talking about today in relationship with what I've just been speaking about, which is, you know, the sacred secretions of the land of milk and honey, the milky coloured substance and the honey coloured substance, what's it all got to do with? I'm going to be relating it all to the upper part of the middle cauldron, which is the heart and the lungs. And in Ireland, if you've seen my work before, you'll know that I reference Anders Cowlands, who has a map of Ireland showing all of the megaliths. And he's showing the astronomical inscriptions of the constellations above on certain megaliths around Ireland. And I've got a selection here just for the region that I'm going to be focusing on today. And but he's done the whole body. And when you inspect the layout of them as constellations as above, they're called fixed stars, which means that they never move their position between each other. It's like a fixed projection, and it just rotates. And that takes, 26,000 years-ish to do one full rotation. And the position between star to star, it never changes, and that's why we can use the observation of the night sky for navigation. And one of the main navigating tools to learn is about finding the North Star, which is the star that is closest to the North Celestial Pole. And in this age that we're in, that star is called Polaris, and it is located on the handle of the Little Dipper. So here we've got these selection of constellations which are matching these pink circles on the body of Ireland. And Anders Cowlands has located what county has a particular stone with a particular constellation. So let's go around. In the county of Leitrim, he has found that there is a constellation called Boots, and Boots means the cow herd or the herdsman, because he's pushing a plough. Then over here in Sligo, we've got Virgo, which Anders Cowlands has noted as Carrow Keel monument. Then coming down to Roscommon, there is a site with Ursa Major, which we'll get to, which is the Big Dipper, which is part of a constellation called the Bear, which is used to help find the pole star. So that's in Roscommon, Ursa Major. Coming down to Galway, we've got Leo. Here's Virgo. Here's Boots in Leitrim. Virgo, Leo. The Bear, the Big Dipper. And then sites with the Little Dipper, we've got Longford, there's a site there with Ursa Minor. And then coming over to the Brunaboyne Valley, the Valley of the White Cow, cow herd, white cow, we've got the Ursa Minor found at the Wrath of the Synods at Tara. He's located it there. And he's also sort of put in position where the Leah Fall used to be, apparently, nearby the Mound of the Hostages. That would actually line up perfectly with the North Celestial Pole, which is a diagram that I've actually created in my third book, Irish Elixir, not knowing what he did, and then when I overlaid his diagram from his book onto mine, it was a very, very interesting match. So I might do a separate video on that one just to keep it clear for this. But my question with all of this as well was like, okay, we're standing on a piece of earth and we're looking up at the night sky. If I'm standing up here, I'll still see Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. If I'm standing down here, I'll still see the same, hear the same, hear the same. You know, but why did whoever inscribed these constellations on these particular areas put them in exactly these positions? Why did they not have, you know, the Ursa Major up here or down there? It's interesting because when you look at the entire map that Anders Cowlands paints for us with all of the zodiac in the correct positions, you'll see that it is an entire map of the fixed stars, the constellations. Not all of them, but the ones that can be seen at that point in time from Ireland. So that's very interesting. So this is the as above, obviously that's the constellations, and this is the as below. This is the megaliths that have been inscribed with these constellations in this particular area, which I'm referencing to the human body, which you can see behind me, as the region of the heart and the lungs. And this is something I've talked about in my third book as well, which is the whole Brunnerboyne complex of Newgrange, which actually used to be called Tara, and Nouth and Douth. I'm perceiving these anatomically as the region of the heart and the lungs. Nouth and Douth are the lungs, and Tara, Newgrange is the heart. When you think about the fact that the sun rises over the Red Mountain every winter solstice and comes into the chamber of Newgrange, it's kind of like setting the rhythm, setting the heartbeat for the year in harmony with the elements, the sun rising, penetrating through the air, going into the earth, and then maybe it was going into a bowl of water, which would be evaporating water back into air. So there's this internal alchemy in the chamber there. So if we look at that as above, you know, I recently watched a pretty good YouTube video explaining how to locate these particular constellations so we can find all the other ones. And the main one we want to focus on is the bear and the Big Dipper part of the bear, or the pot or the plough, and the Little Dipper, which contains the pole star. Because what is the pole star? In internal alchemy, in Qigong, we have what we call the Tai Chi pole, which is the light energy that runs through your spine, your vertical axis, connecting your as below through your feet to your as above to the heavenly energies. So you're running energy, your Kundalini energy, through this Tai Chi pole, and that, you know, this practice of the microcosmic orbit is to align yourself with the heavens above, the heavenly energies. And if you've seen little pictures of the microcosmic orbit, you'll often see a little man sitting on a chair, and he's got the earth below him, and he's got the 3 Dantean fires in his body, and you can see the circulation of the Du and the Ren going around up and down the spine, the front and the back, meridians. And then you'll see maybe a spiral Milky Way coming out the top of his head, and you'll see this constellation of the Big Dipper, right? And so this is always going to be pointing us to the pole star. So that's why it's really important in terms of you know, the inner alchemical practice for the sacred secretion, and also how it relates to decoding the information that comes from Ireland in terms of the mythology of Saint Bridget, the patron saint of Ireland, and going over there back to the east of the Neijing too, we're going to find a little character in there that we can decipher as well, which relates all to this cosmological stuff, as does Saint Bridget. So I want to show how they all sort of knit together. So anyway, we can see the bear here. Here's his little body, and here's his little face, and his front arms and legs and feet. And then off the back of him, we've got this constellation. It's a section called the Big Dipper or the pot. And it goes, there's the pot, like this, the container. And then this is the handle, 1, 2, 3. And the handle points down. And what happens here is that when we line up these two stars and we follow that line, we hit the handle, the very end of the Little Dipper, the little bear. But this is the end of the handle, and you'll notice that this handle, it kind of slopes down. This one's sort of slopes down like that, and this one's more straight, I should say, rather. And then there's the little pot container there. So one's going that way and one's going that way. This handle's more straight and this handle angles down, and that's how you can tell. Also, that one's smaller. That's why it's called the Little Dipper. And so all you need to do is line that up to that. You'll find that star there, which currently is called Polaris, and that's the closest star to the North Celestial Pole, which in Inner Alchemy is really the top of your head, your crown chakra, all of that kind of stuff. And so to find boots, you arc from the handle of the Big Dipper to the star here, and you can connect them all up like that. And so this pattern is basically a zoom out of what we find there on Ireland. And so how does this all relate to the Neijing 2 and the human body? I want us to remember the Brunaboyne Valley in this position here. This is really the back of the heart and the lungs. This is a little gate that we'll see in the Neijing 2. So that's the spine, and then this is a point on the spine, which is on the Du meridian, the governing meridian, and that relates to the entry into the heart, which is obviously going to be deeper inside the body. External, internal. And then we've got Boots, the constellation of Boots, which is the herdsman or the cow herd, and he plows the Big Dipper around the night sky. And it goes around the pole star. And we'll see that in the other end of the board, what that looks like over 1 year's cycle and how that relates back to St. Bridget. Okay, so now we're going to be moving from Ireland to the human body, the larger hologram to the smaller hologram, or the Isa Christ. And as we can see here, we've got the human body facing west, just like Ireland is. And this is showing us the heart and the lungs. In the green, this is the venous system, the deoxygenated blood, and then the pink is the oxygenated blood. And we've got the heart. The lungs are kind of around there. Obviously, it'll be easier to see them from the front, so you have to use your imagination. And then this little line here, that's the suggestion of the diaphragm, which is the muscle on the horizontal plane that goes up and down. When we breathe in, it goes down because the lungs get bigger, so it moves it down. And then when we breathe out, it moves up because it squeezes all the air out of the lungs. So that's the diaphragm happening there. And then we've got in pink the spine, because what we're doing when we do the sacred secretion, utilizing the Qigong exercise called the microcosmic orbit, which is all about this as above, so below, synchronization of your Taiji pole with the heavens above, so you're in harmony with the universe. It's all about the spine, and what is the two acupuncture meridians running through the spine is the Ren meridian and the Du meridian, or the governing meridian, and the conception. So this is the masculine, the sun, the feminine, the moon. They actually both run up, but you can obviously run your energy in both directions as well, doing these microcosmic orbits. But the way that the zodiac goes around, that we've seen in Ireland, when the sun and the moon move through that zodiac, it's going in this direction. And so what's important to note on this diagram, obviously the position of the heart and the lungs, And then if we come from the bottom of the spine, we've got the sacrum and the coccyx, and then we've got the lumbar section, big bones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we move into the thoracic region. This is where all the ribs connect to protect all of the internal organs, just like my top. And then we move into the cervical region, which is the neck, the back of the neck, the occiput, and then going in to the brainstem. And on top of the brainstem, we've got the ventricular system and the pineal gland and all of those amazing glands that everyone thinks is the milk and honey. Okay, so coming up to T5, thoracic number 5, we've got an acupuncture point called Shin Dao, which means spirit pathway, and that's a Dumai 11 acupuncture point. And this, as we'll see on the next diagram of the inner weaving, there's a little gate there, and this is the gate into your heart and your lungs, and then this would be in the position of Bruna Boyne and the river Boyne, the river of the white cow. Remember this cow symbology. It's really interesting. And also at Tara, in my 3rd book, I've made a map of Tara, and there's so many cow references at Tara. It's ridiculous. There's like wells of cows and all these different cow references. So there's some very interesting symbology about the cow and the heart. So on the front side, on the Ren meridian, the feminine moon sunset, sunrise, sunset meridian, on the opposite side, we've got an acupuncture point called Chandong, and that's Ren my 17, and that means chest center, so it's in between your nipples, and it's also a point called the Sea of Qi. And what is the Qi? Part of the Qi is the cosmic Qi that we breathe in. Part of the Qi is the food and the water energy that we eat and drink in. So Qi is like these external resources that we bring into our body. And this is the center of operations for the Qi, the manufacturing of the Qi through the lungs and the heart. And so we'll come back to this, but in my experience so far with the sacred secretion, which has been full-time for 3.5 years doing this inspection, I've come to call the energy that is produced when you do this practice, I've come to call it bliss energy, which Wilhelm Reich would probably call orgone energy, which is really about moving your sexual reproductive energy, your Jing essence, up through your spine into the place of Qi in the brain, where you get your Qi in, and then when you move it down, where do you move that to? You move it back into your heart. This is the 1, 2, 3 Dantian process that I am actually practicing quite differently from what I've read in a lot of Daoist traditional texts, which is where they move energy from the lower to the middle to the upper, and they want to go out of their body, don't know where they're going. My practice is about moving it from the lower to the upper, back to the middle, and that is the reverse of the Fibonacci, which is the returning back to home. And in Chinese medicine, we know that the heart is the house of the spirit, and this is one of the 3 parts of Isa. The seed or the Qi, the essence, and the spirit. And this is the 3 parts of Isa, the 3 Dantian. And you have to harmonize them all together to sort of cultivate this energy that I call bliss energy, which is like the birth coming from the sexual reproductive energy, mixing with the psychic energy, and when those two are blended together and put back into the heart, it's a very interesting feeling. It feels like you've had an orgasm, but it's coming out of your heart. And as I've gone on with this practice, every time that is cultivated, it moves further through my body. And logically, critically thinking about that, I was like, well, the heart vortexes blood, right? We know now that the heart is not a pump. The heart is a spiraling vortex. So when you spiral water, which blood is, you spiral that water, you're structuring the molecules into a more geometrical structure, right? And so when you're doing the sacred secretion practice, you're bringing energy up through, you're swallowing your saliva, and it travels back down past the heart, and this electromagnetic energy helps the heart to wipe the memory of the water firstly, because the magnetic field wipes the memory of water, and then the heart will restructure that blood water. And where does it go? It goes through every to every cell of your body and delivers new information. So as you do this practice, and as that new structure of your heart waters, your spirit, has been restructured, it continues to flow to every single cell of your body. And so month by month, it actually becomes I talked about it feeling like an orgasm in your heart. It starts feeling like that throughout your entire body, and it lasts longer, and it feels more strong, and to me, it feels like bliss. And to me, this is really what maybe humans should be feeling as children in the Garden of Eden. This is the Garden of Eden, and we should be like playful children, feeling great all the time. And I think this is part of the knowledge that has been, hidden and stolen from us over all these years is, everywhere we look now externally, there's things to feel horrible about, especially if you watch Netflix. Instead of feeding our inputs with beautiful things, we're feeding ourselves with horrible things. But what we really should be doing is getting back to feeling good again. And how do we do that? This practice has definitely cultivated within me this very visceral feeling of feeling great. And it is repeatable, and it does build month by month. So that's why the heart as a vortex, as a water spiraling unit is very, very important to learn about in the sacred secretion practice, and why it has such important mythology around it, and why it's related to this, this constellation here. And as we'll see, that over the period of 1 year is actually forming a spiral vortex.